Fantastic. So, good evening and welcome to all of us on 20 day 2. It had been amazing yesterday, and we had 200 plus members even at 8 o'clock in the evening yesterday. And that's fantastic news that we all were so keen and looking at Dhwani. It was really amazing. So, I welcome each one of us for a wonderful session today, which is very interactive with amazing opportunities, not only in India, but in Canada, in other countries as well. So today also, we're going to have a lot of fun with serious learning and, of course, an enriching experience. With this thought, let me invite our own CA Ravindra Kore sir, the chairman, and of course, for our every program, whether it is Dhwani or any Gyan Dasoha programs, I am so happy that he will address all of us. CA Ravindra Kore sir ji, please start.
ಇರೆಯಿಂದ ಮೊಳಕೆ ಯೋಗ ಬಂದು ತಮಟೆಗಳಿಲ್ಲ ಫಲ ಮಾಗು ಒಂದು ತುತ್ತೂರಿ ದನಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳಕಿವ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಚಂದ್ರದೊಂದು ಸದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತುಟಿಗಳನ್ನು ಮಂಕೋತಿಲ್ಲ. ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್. I wholeheartedly welcome you for the Dhwani 2 days Women Chartered Accountants Conference, and it is a 94th Jnanadasova live webcast program from Bangalore branch. On behalf of Managing Committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome all the viewers for those who are now joining for the today's event. Coming to end the program, yes, yesterday it was a fantastic program, as Madam Bhavana told. It is on Dhwani started with an Adhyamya Chetana, Tejaswini Anant Kumar and Ambu Mohan and Archana Jain and Sarika Jain. The both have done the excellent presentation yesterday. And today, this day you can call it as, yesterday it was a national day because we got a speaker from Mumbai and Delhi. One is economic capital city and one is a capital city of India. And today we are having an, you can call it as International Month Conference. The reason is very simple. We have all stalwarts from international women speakers. So the first session will be on opportunities in the Middle East. That is ITT from Muscat chapter. We have with the CA Aswini Saurikar. On behalf of all the viewers and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome CA Aswin Madam for the today's session. Welcome you, Madam. Yes, we have a joint secretary from Behran chapter of ICAI. That is none other than the CA Ria Bansali. On behalf of all the viewers and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome Madam Ria for the today's session. We have with us from past chairperson from Doha chapter. It is none other than CA Rupalakshmi Shetty. On behalf of all the viewers and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome Rupalakshmi Shetty for the today's session. Welcome you, madam. We have with executive member of Dubai chapter, none other than CA Sangeeta Nahar. On behalf of all the viewers and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome CA Sangeeta Nahar, madam, for the today's session. Welcome you, madam. Yes, it's all international speakers to handle moderating nationally and the city from moving from capital city to our cultural hub. Whenever we call it in Dasara, the madam is sitting it in, you can say it Mysuru. From Mysuru, we have our own member, CA Rupa Venkatesh, madam. I wholeheartedly welcome Rupa madam for the today's session. Even I am seeing her after many years, 2 3 years after that. Yes, madam. On behalf of Bangalore branch and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome CA Rupa Venkatesh madam. Yes, neighbors, we have with our coordinator program, the key person, that is none other than program coordinator, our own member, Madam Geeta with us. I wholeheartedly welcome Geeta Madam for the today's session. And yes, MC is the moderating for the last 2 days, that is Bhavana Dubey. I wholeheartedly welcome Bhavana Dubey, madam.
Thank you.
After this sessions, we have a session that is a quiz, that is two quiz masters, the working behind the screen. Our own members, CS Sandhya and CS Sanjana Hegare. I wholeheartedly welcome both the uh, they have supposed to be role in our all conference as a master of ceremony. This for women conference, we have made it as a quiz masters. I welcome both the chartered accountants CS Sandhya and CS Sanjana. We have a session professional opportunities for Indian CAs from Canada in the options of CA Priya Goyal. I wholeheartedly welcome CA Priya Goyal for the next session she is going to handle. And after that, pathway for professional uh, opportunities from US, we have Miss Deepika Singh from US. I wholeheartedly welcome Miss Deepika Singh for the today's session. Yes, the personalities who is important always is none, that is none other than you all members actively watching this Gnanada Sova live because today we are reaching the whenever making a century, it is not only 100 number is important or 90 number, 99 is important. That's the reason we kept it 93 and 94. So completion stage, that is one conference and completing the year 2020. I wholeheartedly welcome all the viewers woman maybe we have given I when I shared the link I told I requested men also to join. I think maybe 1% 2% are there totally minority. I wholeheartedly welcome the women members and the men members who has taken courage to join this program. I wholeheartedly welcome men members also for the today's session. Yes, it is an virtual session. Dana Dasova are continuingly as you members internationally. When lockdown is announced in India, 23rd March, in whole India in ICA, the Bangalore branch, we started webinars on 18th March only. 18th March only. We are the first Bangalore branch in the running, and as per ICA finance today, we are reaching 94th session. Definitely in upcoming days, we are having a more programs. So all things we have in our IT team, our program MDP coordinator, IT team headed by Nitin, Manish, and all working very in short time, and also our program MDP program coordinator is Data. They're all working very hard to make it happen. So I have to thank them. I once again the Madam Geeta and our own treasurer from Bangalore Bank Divya is making it happening this event. Yes, I once again welcome all the speaker for the today's session, and I want to thanking you all and best wishes from Bangalore branch. Over to Madam Bhavna.
Thank you so much, sir. Always, we always get inspired hearing you, and I'm so happy to see you with us, always supporting all the women conferences till now. And I'm sure not only virtual meetings, but I'm sure we will make a century and many more centuries in many more virtual and face-to-face sessions. I
Yeah, madam.
invite,
One
yes.
second, madam. We are our century session is on 15th and 16th January. Our 100th webinar is that we are having a state level conference, Ashtavarana. All 8 branches of Karnataka together we are doing it. Since you remembered 100, so I request all the women members has to register for the program. Thank you.
Yes, we will surely register as Dhwanis are going to resonate together. So let me invite Geeta ma'am, CA Geeta ma'am, who is our real Dhwani for the entire program. She is the main, the key for all the programs. Let me also talk about her. Apart from the first in many things, she has also in lockdown for women. It is not that easy managing household things apart from that, also the official things and the sessions which she has done. I'm so glad to also share this information with you that she had, given during lockdown. She is registered valuation course, and she had given exams, and now she is independent directors in that valuation courses. So Geeta ma'am, you have been really an inspiration, not only for all of us in these programs, but lockdown, hats off to you, what you have done. So I invite Geeta ma'am for presenting our day two's event. Geeta ma'am, over to you.
No, Bhavna, you continue with panel discussion because they have only 1 hour time. It's already getting late, and the woman
Sure.
also has to leave at some other commitment.
Sure, I will carry on with that. So let me introduce to you CA Rupa Venkatesh, who's our not only, I mean, she has a unique combination, which is CA plus qualified HR expert. She had done a lot of work in the area of training and development also, apart from the chartered accountant courses which she's done. Prior to co-founding T8, she held senior management positions in various courses. As HR expert, she helps to recruit the talents in any organization. She's sought after trainer actually, and also a speaker in many educational institutes, and many are getting inspired by her. She's author of various books, and I can give the names of the books. I mean, there are so many. To give you a few names on the books she has authored are Attitudinal Focus, Living an Inspired Life, Management Principles from Indian Epics. Wow, what a concept. And this had been in talk for many years and so on. Most important, I'm going to talk about the most recent book, which is on cancer, A Comma, Not a Full Stop. Such an important, and what a title, ma'am. It's amazing title. So this particular book actually talks to the family members and friends of cancer patients and guiding them, bringing in awareness through to everyone on the cancer patient. She has been giving in, she's been talking about a lot of notes on international, as an international speaker, and many more things. So in fact, one more thing which I would like to say about this book had been in Limca Book of Records, and that is an amazing thing wherein people have been appreciating. And ma'am, we are glad to invite you here. It is our pleasure to have you in this session. I would request everyone to welcome her with a big round of applause. Rupa Venkatesh ma'am, over to you.
Very good afternoon. Thank you, Bhavna, for those nice words. We start off on the first session, and I intend to keep this as, should I say, crisp as possible. And I believe that the unknown always causes fear, but if we get information from reliable sources, then I think that fear can be converted to excitement, which is what we are planning to do today. Opportunities will come knocking sometimes, but most of the time we got to go looking for them. So I'm hoping that the 180 and odd people who are now online are ready to go and seize the opportunities as they unfold today in this panel discussion. I'm quite excited, and I would like to introduce the panelists and also ask them questions, which I think I will ask on all your behalves. First up, we have as a panelist Ashwini Savrikar. Can we have her profile, please? She's held many positions. She's been the past chairman of the Muscat chapter. I'm paraphrasing from her profile. Please do read it. It continues to be very awe-inspiring. She's worked with risk assessment, IT, internal control, and what I think will be very crucial for all of us is that she's worked both in India and abroad. So she can kind of bring the perspective required for all of us to understand how to approach a certain opportunity. She's much traveled, having traveled to 60 plus countries, including the North Pole. Hats off, Ashwini. You make me jealous. She is a very good singer. Unfortunately, today we won't be hearing her sing. And she is listed in the top 100 women in finance in the leading category, which is a big achievement, not only for Ashwini, it is also an achievement for women. It's an achievement for professionals. And I think when we listen to someone like Ashwini, we need to understand the amount of hard work, the amount of focus and commitment she's put in to build her career. So Ashwini, let me welcome you first of all, and ask you one question. How did you get to the Middle East? And was it a choice that you wanted to go and make your career there, or there were some other compulsions?
Yes, thank you so much, CA Rupa. And first of all, thank you for having me over. The team, Bangalore team, CA Ravindra, CA Geeta, CA Bhavana for the nice words. So to answer your question, CA Rupa, it was more of decision driven by family, but taking work aspects into consideration. So for me, what motivated me to move out of India and come here was the work-life balance that I saw happening here in Oman. And so at 5 o'clock when the office ends, I can actually leave the office at 5 and be at home by 5:36. So that was one of the biggest things. Back in India, I had to travel 1.5 hours in the morning and 2.5 hours in the evening with a 2-year-old child at home. That was really difficult. But yes, before making the decision, I did come down, checked culturally whether I can fit in, whether I can understand and be part of this space, and also whether there are good job opportunities. So yes, my husband got a job, then we evaluated how it is staying here, and then I came in and got a job. So that's how we landed in Oman.
Excellent. Having a good time. It's now, I'd like to welcome Sangeeta Nahar, one more very impressive panelist. She's got experience in, why is it right? Okay. Hello? Okay. She's got experience in real estate, luxury, retail, financial control, strategic planning, you name it. 23 plus years of experience, very rich professional experience, and she's been the managing committee member at the ICAI in Dubai. So she's also been giving back to the profession, which is very interesting, considering all of us are professionals and we all need to understand the value which a professional brings. I was really impressed that she's worked with celebrities like Tiger Woods, which shows that she is able to straddle both the social side of business and the professional side of the business. And today, when we will speak to her over the next few minutes, we will understand how, as head of finance of Madinat Badr, Dubai Islamic Bank, she is able to manage and pack in so much. Sangeeta, so I'm going to ask you the same question. What's so exciting about working in the Middle East?
Namaskara, Bangalore. It's a very nostalgic moment for me, being my home chapter. Dhanyavada to Chairman CA Ravindran, Geeta, CA Geeta, Lata, Bhavna, Rupa, and all my other panelists. Rupa, it's an unusual story, you know. As the saying goes, opportunity knocks on your door, and if you're always willing to take a chance, it could turn out to be perfect. And in my case, 23 years back, I was a new mother. I had a 3-month-old baby, and like every other mother, I ventured out again to get back into the professional world. It was then that I interviewed with a finance controller who was down from Dubai, and I did a written test and I got out with flying colors. So on the one hand, I had a 3-month-old baby who had to leave, and on the other hand, I had a lucrative opportunity in Dubai waiting for me. You see, this was a very tough decision, but my family stood by me, and I did take the flight to Dubai. And honestly, today, looking back, it is one of the most good decision. I've had a very successful, fulfilling career. I've blossomed as a professional, and let me tell you, everybody out there, there are no free lunches. Every success story involves sacrifices. So honestly, follow your dreams.
Yeah. Fully take Sangeeta. Coming from you, it makes a lot of sense. And therefore, I must take this opportunity to congratulate both Ravindra Kore and CA Geeta to bring together such wonderful people who talk about their experiences of going to another country, working as professionals, not maybe sometimes facing such dilemmas. Our other panelist is just as impressive for more reason than one, that she takes my breath away, because she teaches people to breathe right. Of course, I'm talking about Ria Bhansali. She is the Joint Secretary of the ICAI chapter at Bahrain. She is a yoga and pranayama expert. She marries professional work as well as wellness. Now, this is very crucial, where you take an old technology of wellness, of being well, not being disease-free, being well, and using that to create success in the modern world. So she has kind of perfected that. She teaches that to everyone. She is happy to share all her learnings and experiences. She loves to paint. She's a person who's bubbling with life and wanting to give. So it's up to us how much we want to take. So Ria, did you just paint yourself into the Middle East, or there was some other reason why you went to Middle East?
Well, first of all, Namaskara of Bangalore. I'm really honored, as this is my first panel discussion, and I'm sharing the platform with such amazing women who've achieved so much and who I've also personally looked up to. So, ma'am, answering your question, I have been born and brought up in Bahrain. Family was definitely the reason why we moved. My schooling was done here. My dad's a chartered accountant, and everyone in my family is also a chartered accountant. So naturally, the path became like, finance. There was no thinking what to do next. It was just, you have to do CA. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm choosing it. I went to Mumbai for 7 to 8 years to finish my CA, my BCom, my MCom. At the same time, yoga happened. But during my articleship, I really, at that phase, I realized how hard Mumbai or India could be. Traveling for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And I've always grown up seeing my dad come home by 5:36, spending time with us, taking us out. So I knew somewhere deep down I couldn't continue here in India. Although I did have an option to work there, I chose to come back to Bahrain. Family was a very strong reason for me, because I was living apart for 8 years. And I also knew I could balance things out better here. And that was my story when I came back 2 years back again to Bahrain. I'm living with family and balancing yoga and my corporate career.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and now we have my namesake, Rupa Lakshmi Shetty. She's been the past chairperson of the Doha chapter of ICAI. She's been a teacher, a trainer. She has industry corporate experience. And this is where I think all of the audience must appreciate. She's been in academics, she's been in the corporate world. So she is in a position to tell us how each of these things pan out. And while academics may seem like an easier option, is it really so? Maybe we should ask her questions as we go along. She's been lucky enough to work with liquidation, an experience which very few finance professionals actually can get as on hands-on. She's worked with environmental engineering and sustainable development. These two are buzzwords in today's world. So she's kind of worked with those kind of companies, so kind of understands that more. And we have to learn from her about how these words are not necessarily buzzwords, but they are ways in which business may possibly transform. Okay. I would also like now to ask Sangeeta, what are the keys to making and building a career in the Middle East?
Yeah. Rupa, Middle East is a very uncomplicated place. You know, things are straightforward here, and I would answer this question from my experience as to what are the key things in making a career. See, I come from the real estate development industry, you know, which is one of the key pillars of the UAE. So while I enjoyed all the perks that comes with this industry, it was also one of the worst hit industries during the recession and the downturn. So I have survived all these recessions, I have survived redundancies, and I have survived so many restructurings. So how is it possible? How did I build this? See, for me, every single day at work is a new day. Every day is a new day. I don't procrastinate. I do not fester on issues. I get my hands dirty. I'm a very hands on person. You know, I'm always on the driving seat when it comes to work. I have built a good team. And another real very important thing is always keep updating your knowledge. Technology is very important. Get to know your IT systems. Just have this curiosity mindset and keep learning on technology. In fact, you know, in 1999, I did my ERP implementation where it was not known, you know. I spent time at Oracle, I gave up my job and took this 1 month course, and this was the reason why I even got the opportunity in Dubai. So whenever you take something, don't really think that how will it help me, just keep learning and it's really going to take you to places. Apart from that, because of my 22 years here, I would like to share a few things with the audience out there. Look, everybody says that you need to have contacts and things like that in order to get jobs. Look, I'm a standing example. I have never used any of my contacts till today. I have gone through the normal means which is available to normal people, websites, job agencies. Believe me, don't get disheartened that, oh, I don't know this person, that person. Continue to try. Secondly, my experience has been that it is much easier to get a foothold and to settle abroad during the initial stages of your career, because that time you're young, you have a lot of energy and you can roughen it out. Once you move to a mid-level, senior level, it gets a little bit complicated and tough. So that's my takeaway. So all of you young ones there who really want to give it a shot, go ahead and do it. You have LinkedIns today which are very, you know, I've got my this DIB offer through LinkedIn. Though I was in Dubai for 21 years, I still didn't use, I've been in the committee for 6-7 years. I didn't use a single professional contact. So second thing is you need to be a complete package. You need to make sure that you deliver your work on time, you have good communication, your grooming is good. These things are very important. They have a, you know, say in when you get hired. And the third thing is the culture of the organization is very important, and you need to make sure that you kind of, get into the culture quickly, adapt to it. So these are the key things as per me, which will really play a role in building a career in wherever you go, and especially Middle East.
Excellent. Really, because you've highlighted both the professional side as well as the social skill side, which is also very important. But Rupa, then I would like, Rupa Lakshmi, I would like to ask you, considering you had experience both in employment and in consulting, where do you think the opportunities lie? Do they lie only in employment in the Middle East? Or do you think consultancy is also an opportunity available?
Can you hear me?
Rupa Lakshmi?
Yeah, hi.
Thanks, Rupa, for asking me that question. Well, having experience in both the fields, as in an employment as well as a consultancy, it gives a diversification in all the things. Having said that, I would like to say a few things that Qatar actually boasts on a lot of opportunities it has to offer in various fields, be it you call it trade or banking or finance, construction, sports, to name a few, keeping in mind that oil and gas is a primary resources for Qatar. Having said this, Qatar National Vision of 2030 outlines a bold and aspiring vision for Qatar's future growth and development, which is based upon basically the four pillars I could call it. That is, one is the sustainable human development, sustainable social development, sustainable, we could call it economic development, and environmental sustainability. Now, having said that, we have roughly around 500 chartered accountants in our Doha chapter of ICI, of which 20% are women chartered accountants. Now, having said that, out of the 20%, they are engaged either in the private sector or public sector, and most of it are also going into consultancy services. So if you ask my personal view, first, as in employment, when I was in employment, I got an opportunity to understand, and my time was constrained. Like, you have to work at this particular time, time in, time out was there, which gave me an opportunity to spend time, especially in the evenings with the family. Having said this, with the current opportunities which the Qatar is giving me now, I felt that I should bank on that opportunity, and it gave me a wider scope to work with different clients and to know different nature of businesses. So I feel Qatar gives opportunities to both the employment as well as the consultancy services. It depends upon the comfort with which you people want to take it up.
Oh, excellent. That's very nice to know, Rupa, that there are both opportunities in employment as well as consulting. But I'm sure many people, including me, are wondering, is there an opportunity for outsourcing of work so that you don't have to necessarily leave your home and earth and go to any of these countries in the Middle East? So, Ashwini, can you help us understand whether outsourcing is a model which Middle East is ready for?
Yes, sure. Actually, nowadays, what's happening in the new trend is about the localization. So, like Oman has Omanization, and the other countries also. So, there's a trend where certain positions or certain industries cannot have expatriates in that job position. So, while this closes one door for expats, it's actually opening up other opportunities, as this is what opens up the outsourcing door. So it's a very valid question which you've asked, and if the required expertise is not available locally and you cannot hire expatriates as in those job positions, then obviously companies and businesses have to look for outsourcing. And India has the proximity advantage. The Gulf, Oman is just 2 hours flight from Mumbai, 3 hours flight from Bengaluru. And of course, India has a skill set. So immense opportunity for outsourcing. Also, I believe because of COVID-19, and companies are now getting more comfortable with the idea of using digital means. And we are mostly CAs here. We are talking about CAs. So areas of interest would be outsourced CFO, outsourced accounting functions, outsourcing of the investment management function, outsourcing of the tax function, VAT. VAT, in fact, in Oman, it's going to be implemented in April 2021. And they're talking about personal income tax in 2022. So obviously in the taxation area also, people here, the companies here will need expertise from neighbors like India, where we have experts in these respective fields. One word of caution, companies are always very skeptical to outsource to a particular one individual. So what is required is that CAs here in India should collaborate together, establish an entity maybe, start with smaller clients, maybe in India, show a track record, and then approach companies in the Gulf for providing their outsourced services, So that establishes their credibility. Another route also possible is that you can tie up with the existing accounting and audit firms in Oman or rest of the Gulf countries, because they are also hitting, they are also hit by the localization requirement. So they may not have the necessary skill set staff on their payroll, and then they would need to have consultants from places like India, from where they can provide services to their customers, clients in Oman. So tie up with these firms, do some projects, come down to Oman or the other Gulf countries on project basis, do your own networking, develop rapport with the companies here, and then you are here and you can then approach the companies for independent assignments. So I think that's the way to go for outsourcing.
Yeah, that's a very good way forward. I think, yes, consolidation or grouping together of like-minded professionals would give us a better strength to approach. Yeah, that sounds very very interesting and a very grounded answer, Ashwini. I'm sure the audience is kind of making notes and thinking about how best we can approach this kind of opportunity. Now, one question I have, I don't know which of you would be comfortable, because all of you women are very well traveled or well exposed to the various geographies within the Middle East. Middle East is a very large geography. Which are the more woman-friendly countries? Anyone? I know Sangeeta has traveled.
Yeah, Dubai is definitely very, very cosmopolitan and modern. It's something like a mini New York or mini a Bombay, where everybody is welcome and very high profile, high luxury lifestyle. So Dubai definitely would top the list as per me. In terms of gelling very easily with the environment, and even the other countries are for sure, but I guess Dubai does stand out.
Okay, so Dubai is one. Yes, Ashwini, you were saying something.
There's one expert insider report.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some statistics which they give, and every year there is some ranking done, and a nation's quality of life they base on 6 factors like leisure options, personal happiness, travel, transportation, health, and I think one more, and yes, safety and security, which also includes safety for women who are part of the people who are staying there. So they rated the GCC countries, and so GCC countries are also part of these countries being rated, and in that, I think UAE came, the 2019 statistics, UAE came on the 6th position, Oman was 10th, Qatar 11th, Bahrain 20th, Kuwait 46th, and then many other countries. And I would definitely say that on the safety front, countries like Oman are definitely much more safe than some of the Western countries that we talk about. The crime rates are very low. So that really makes it a very safe place, the Gulf per se, as such. And we're talking about these countries, so the countries which we are representing here today in the Middle East. So yes, it definitely makes it a safe place. Women are working, we are driving. So yes, on the safety count, I've never faced any issues in the night. I would go and pick up my husband from the airport, or I mean, it's never been any issue at all. Yeah.
Very good. So, which means that the 4 countries which these 4 wonderful women are representing today, that's ready and available to conquer for all the people who are thinking of finding opportunities there. Very good. Now, I want to ask a very woman-centric question, and I think I'll direct this at Riya Bhansali initially. Whose exposure to lifestyle, wellness, I'm sure she meets people in a very relaxed or a different atmosphere. How is there a language barrier? Is there a cultural barrier? What do women wear to work? Do people have to wear the burqa when they go to work? I mean, anyone can? Yeah, Riya?
Definitely. I would say language is not an issue on a.
Riya, will you please speak a little loudly? Your voice is kind of faint.
Sorry, am I audible now? Is it okay? Am I audible?
You're audible, but it's not loud enough.
All right. Am I'm loud enough now? Is it okay?
Yeah, I think yes, you can go on.
All right. So I would like to say for Bahrain, especially, like language is not a barrier if you're seeing an overall scenario. Of course, in corporates, when we go and when you're meeting regional people, Arabic does tend to have their own group, the Arabs, or you can say the North Indians start talking in a certain way. Of course, when you see like-minded people and culturally similar people, that is bound to happen. But in an overall scenario, nobody outcasts you on the basis of language, at least my experience, and being brought up here. English, Hindi is also very well spoken here, even amongst the Arabs. I would like to say that on the women clothing for work, on a large 90 to 95% basis, the corporates, no, there's no issue. But I would like to add, in my experience, what I have experienced in my company was my management did call me and tell me, you cannot wear skirts, or you cannot wear, you have to wear pants and trousers. So definitely on a larger scale, you will not notice that, but internally your management does try to direct you to make it more culturally appropriate. But that is industry centric. It does not happen throughout all the industries, or even in my industry, doesn't happen to all the companies. So I think that would be very industry centric. But if you're going to maybe Islamic centric companies, they would require you to dress up in a certain way. But that is for each company. You cannot generalize in a totality. There is a restriction.
Okay. Ashwini, do you have another take on that?
On the clothing, I've never faced any issues. But yes, I mean, way back in 2006 or 7, when all the ladies in the office, we wanted to wear a sari for Diwali, our management did say that, oh, it should not be revealing. So that was the only thing. But then, yes, we did wear saris, which were obviously well-dressed saris, and the way they are gracefully worn. So I think just like we have probably misconceptions. In India, we have misconceptions about how things are at other places. Probably here also there are misconceptions. So that's what we realized, that the sari probably is too revealing or something like that. So other than that, I've never faced any issues. When I'm going to a temple visit, I would wear a sari. When I'm coming to an office, I would prefer to wear a suit, a Western suit. But if I was wearing a salwar kameez, nobody would be saying no for that. So yes, I've never faced any of those kind of issues in Oman.
Excellent. So which that clothing culture is really not an issue which we need to be overly concerned about when we are looking at opportunities of possibly coming and working closely with the people there. Now, both Rupa and Sangeeta, I would like to direct this question to you. Considering the kind of background of COVID, many businesses are shutting down, they're consolidating, they're changing, they're adapting. So, do you think there's a huge opportunity for liquidation or consolidation experts? Or do you think it's a very short bubble which may not last for too long?
Okay, shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. I would rather say cost optimization is the buzzword now in the challenging times, which are being adopted by many companies. And there is a plenty of scope of work on the consulting front. So what happens here is with the IT sector, with the digitization which is going on, so whatever are the technical know-how is there, or the expertise advices are there, it is being shared between different companies across. Like, it's very easy to do it. And in the current scenario, there are companies which are going in for consolidation, merging, close out, and there is a lot of opportunities for liquidation. I would say litigation also, liability management, which can easily go offshore. When I say litigation, because when the company goes into liquidation, now because of this COVID situation, a lot of issues may happen. Like some, for example, rent for different companies or real estate company. they may not be in a position to pay off the rent. So they may go into litigation. So somebody may take an opportunity for litigation works out here, and then that can easily go offshore. I'm just giving an example here. At the same time, there are skill sets available offshore to take into different considerations here in Qatar. I would say it can be done.
Yeah. Sangeeta, you.
Yeah, Rupa, generally UAE is a very young country, so compared to the other mature economies like US and India, so all along the trajectory has been that of growth. But of course, there are a lot of opportunities for restructuring. It happens very often over here. And though the liquidation law is quite young and to file a liquidation, you do need an audit report, which is a requirement. So there are opportunities there. But on the restructuring side, yes, there are huge opportunities where you restructure the liabilities and you consolidate and you come up. So usually all the firms are approached, and if you have good skill sets and industry knowledge, you can really add value there.
Oh, very nice. So we are talking. There are opportunities and there are opportunities. Till now, I have not heard one panelist say that opportunities are going away or opportunities are few. So it looks like the Middle East is working overtime to expand, to grow, and therefore needs people with skill sets, people with resources, people who can manage things. So which is very heartening, I'm sure, for the entire audience who are looking at opportunities. Because my personal view is that the Western world, one, is frightfully expensive. Two, is not culturally very amenable to change. Whereas I find from the conversation here that they are more willing to look at Indian people, Indian resources, Indian skills to come and help them achieve their own goals. So now let me ask Ria, who is the Joint Secretary of the Bahrain chapter of ICAI. I'm sure you are organizing many events and inviting speakers. Are there any pet subjects? Because I'm sure in the audience there are people who would like to become speakers, would like to address gatherings, would like to maybe study some subjects which may be of interest. Are there any pet subjects which are of interest?
Well, ma'am, every quarter we have one special women event to promote women speakers, and how we have the meeting today. Also, men also attend, not only women centric, but just women speakers. But we've had a variety of them, from breast cancer awareness, going very wellness related, to having technical subjects from audit. We have had business women. If you know, the YK Al Moyed group is very famous, is one of the big. We've had their owners and their sisters and them coming and addressing us. So we've had variety, from business women to auditors to wellness experts, entire variety depending on what the seasonal demand is. We also have a WhatsApp group for women only, and we ask them what they would like, and suggestions pour in, and that's when the committee comes together. So there's no pet subject. It's basically you have to make a difference because women are taking out time, despite their home schedule and their work schedule. Especially we always make sure that those 2 hours or 3 hours that they're spending really creates an impact. And so there are no pet subjects. If you tell me you're going to just talk about IFRS every quarter, it's not like we will get you on board all the time. But it has to be a seasonal requirement. It has to be something that everyone's looking to educate themselves with.
Yeah, that's right. That's possibly a more very balanced view. Now, Sangeeta and Ashwini, I'd like to ask your opinion. For a long time, I've always thought that the Middle East has got no particular interest in taxation. But now, of course, we are hearing about all the indirect taxation which the countries are coming up with, and a promise of direct taxation as well, in personal taxation. So do you think there are opportunities for the GST kind of work? And if at all, by when do you think those opportunities are likely to kind of bloom up?
Ashwini, do you want to go ahead?
You can go first.
Okay.
Dubai is a big fun.
Okay. Yeah, so Dubai had a huge wave when VAT was implemented, Rupa, and there were a lot of opportunities and a lot of members benefited from it. We had a lot of firms, I don't want to take names, but they got their foot in the door because of VAT. So now I see in this field, in the VAT thing, you know, we will be moving towards a mature phase in the next few years, and you will have, you know, audits and disputes, and so people with legal knowledge who can, you know, they're going to be like cases being filed and penalties and all of that, which currently it's not, it's still like, you know, very standard. But as audits are going to increase, you will see that phase where you have appeals and cases and all of that, and opportunities are again going to be there in that field. So yes, but Dubai has passed that wave, you know. It's now on the equilibrium phase. So a lot of people benefited from it, and now I think it's not. It's kind of saturated, to be frank with you. Yeah.
Okay. Ashwini, what is the situation?
Yes. Yes. So what happened in Dubai some time back, as Sangeeta just mentioned, this is currently happening in Oman, because recently the VAT has been announced, and it's going to go live from April 2021. So as we speak, there are firms which are coming down, and if there are people in this conference who are listening about it who has the GST experience, it's the time for them to come down to Oman and approach companies or tie up with other firms and see how best they can help in the VAT implementation. Having said that, the law is there, and we are still waiting for the regulations. So we still do not know which industry will have what kind of taxation, who will be exempt, who will be covered, and who will be zero rated. Having said that, generally in the Gulf, the countries follow each other's routes, and we are expecting, so we are looking at the law in Dubai, UAE, and Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, and we expect the Oman law to be, the regulations to be similar, and that's what the companies in Oman currently are working on. Also on the income tax, as you asked, Rupa, so corporate taxation has always been there in Oman. And whatever firms we have in Oman, they do have a tax department, either small or big, but they do have some presence there. There is recently a separate tax authority has been formed in the government. So that shows the importance that the government is giving to the taxation regulations. And there is a talk going on that in 2022, there will be personal income tax as well coming in. So yes, as of now, the picture about personal income tax is not very but there is an exception, there will be something, and if that happens, then yes, there would be an opportunity for the personal income tax experts in India to see what best they can offer, either directly to companies or tie up with the audit firms or the taxation firms here in Oman. So it's the right time for people to approach for this kind of consulting. Yes.
Yeah, excellent. So kind of to paraphrase, it means that the compliance section of VAT, GST or indirect taxation is kind of been addressed. We should now look at experts in the law who are into interpretation, management, litigation, representation. Those kind of experts need to kind of get into play. So that means the more lucrative part of that opportunity is available to experts from here. Do you think, Rupa Lakshmi, that it is any different in Doha, or Doha is going to follow the kind of same trajectory?
Doha is more or less on the same projection. The only thing is we have not so far heard anything about VAT implementation coming up so soon. If you see the opportunities perspective in Doha, we are all gearing up for 2022, which is coming up now. So from that perspective, you can look in for fitness as a sector which is going to really grow up. Sports as a sector which is going to really grow up. Sustainability as in an area, it could be energy conservation, it could be recycling, you name it. It is going to be the in thing with first 2022 coming up and then 2030 also coming up with the Asian Games on board now. So these are the crucial areas, where we need to focus upon, or rather Qatar is focusing upon heavily. And that is a place where, I believe whatever are the knowledge we people are having or the offshores are having, they can bank upon in Qatar. That's the one thing which you can do.
Yeah, excellent.
As well as the tourism industry also, because with these things, the tourism industry will also start booming in. So the tourism sector also is like, it's going to go ahead with it.
The other thing I had for the audience was if you have any questions, and you can type fast. If you put in a few questions in the queue as in the chat box, I'd be happy to ask them on your behalf. So if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them. In the meantime, I'm going to ask one more last question, which I am keeping it open to everyone. Anyone of the panelists welcome to answer. Maybe it seems like a day very far away, but do you think with your experience or exposure in the Middle East, you can come back to India and set up practice? Is it a possibility, or is the practices so different that we can't?
Can I?
Please.
Okay, so I think every experience counts. So for example, I have been working closely with the boards here, and I'm conducting internal audits, and I'm doing risk assessments. So it's going to be same wherever the place is, whichever the country, because it's kind of business independent, law independent, and country independent. So I would like to believe that yes, experiences that we gather here in the Gulf will be of benefit if I'm going back to India. So long as the application of that would be different, and probably I need to gear up to the recent regulatory changes or the recent developments in that particular industry in India. But once I do that in that initial maybe few months, then it should not be difficult at all to catch up from where I left. And I had experience of working in India as well before I moved to the Gulf. So that would also help. I believe just one thing which might be different is that probably the pace of work in Oman is a bit relaxed than what the pace of work in India is. And that's where I might have to do some more adjustment. But work-wise and experience-wise, experience is experience. So it's definitely going to help. And it's not going to be an impediment for me to come back and provide my services there in India. That's my take.
Excellent. Can I add
What Ashwini said. What I wanted to put up here is, yes, definitely there is a bigger scope also if you want to come back to India, but you have to work prior hand. Like, it's not that just pack up your bags and then come back to India. You need to give yourself a time frame in say maybe 6 months time frame in which you have to upskill your current knowledges, like what is actually happening in India and how it can have a value addition when you go back to India. Definitely, no doubt that whatever we are having a knowledge or an experience based here, it never goes waste. Sooner or later, it will be used when we go back to India. But having said that, we need to upskill our knowledge. That's the one thing which I'm going to definitely put up here. When I say upskill knowledge, it could be, doing some courses or some certified courses which has a value addition when you go back to India. But that's the one thing which I wanted to add what Ashwini had already mentioned.
And Rupa, like real estate development is so very high. Dubai and the Middle East countries are so much to learn. So, I could easily start my real estate consultancy if I come back, and implement the system. So, I think taxation is going to always be tough to pick up, but other industries and other expertise, we can definitely roll out and help India there. Yeah.
I would just like you mentioned that I think humans are very adaptable, and CAs in general, are very. You put us in any environment, we can do that. But just out of my experience, leaving just the technical side, because all the CAs, I believe, whoever is attending can equip themselves very quickly, maybe 3 to 4 months, and get back on track. But what was a challenge for me and also some of my friends who moved back was people management. Because people react very differently. The work culture is very different here. You have to be in office by 7, there, 10, 11, half of the day is over. Just the working style, that pattern changes. More the people have complaints about people not being on time. So the punctuality aspect, that kind of takes a toll on people who are working, who move back to our country. And they can't adjust to that. They're like, okay, 11 means 11, or 11 means 10:45 in Bahrain, but 11 means sometimes 11:30 in India. So there are always jokes about, okay, we are mentioning it 11 o'clock UK time, not the Indian standard time that, you just walk in whenever you want. So that's a very common joke, I'm sure all of us have heard. So I think before moving back, you just have to consider this one aspect, that the working style is going to be a lot different, and the technicalities more or less we can always adapt to.
Yeah, point well taken, Ria. I think culturally there will be some big adaptation issues, but like you said, human beings are very resilient. They will find a way. There is a question which I think any of you or every of you can take, which is, if you have to choose any 2 sectors where there are more opportunities, where women chartered accountants can excel, which would you quickly pick? Just 2 sectors. We'll do round robin on this. Ria, your time starts now.
2 sectors, I think, wellness, always, and number 2, oil and gas here in Bahrain.
Wellness and?
Oil and gas.
Oil and gas. Very good. Sangeeta, what's your answer? Quick answer.
Tourism and real estate.
Tourism and real estate.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, tourism. I wish. I wish the phone would take.
It's going to come back. Yeah.
Rupa?
I would go in for contracting and oil and gas.
Oh, oil and gas keeps coming up.
Because that is the main thing now in Qatar. Gas is the primary resources, so I have to go in there.
Okay. Ashwini?
I would also say oil and gas, and my second one would be banking and financial industries. Banking and financial sector.
Yeah, no matter how the world changes, money will still have to go around. And only the banking industry can save us or kill us. I don't know what it will do. Because I've done some work with the banking industry, I can tell you some gory stories. Any other questions from anyone else? I hope you got the answer to that one.
Rupa Venkatesh ma'am, there is one question. I will read it out for you if you can. If you want to work in Middle East in audit segment, do we need any additional qualifications? Kindly advise. This is from Shalja Rupa ma'am.
Okay, so let's throw this to Sangeeta.
Don't need any other qualification. No, your Indian CA is good enough. But of course, if you want to sign audited statements, we will have to get an auditor certificate, which is done from the Abu Dhabi Financial Authority. That's very tough to get. So there are two sectors. One is the industry and one is practice. If you need to practice, it's a different ball game. But if you need to work in industry, your CA qualification is good enough. Practice has its own requirements, and that will, it will take time just to list it out. If you want me to list out, I can. So you can do consulting, but if you want to sign audited statements, no, you will need to have an agent and a local partner to set up a firm. And so that gets a little bit complicated.
I would think the CA audit, whatever background he's having, that would be fine. But I believe IIA can also be done, Institute of Internal Auditors. I believe, Ashwini, you can throw some light on what it is and how it can add value to the CA, whatever we are doing it. Especially if somebody wants to venture into auditing in either into consulting firms or in any internal audit company as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Rupa. And as Sangeeta said, Indian CA is very well recognized. So we get jobs here because we are a qualified chartered accountant from India. It's very well recognized. So that's one thing. And I think I always carry that as my the best feather in my cap because that's the base that gave me my first identity in the world. And it just helps everywhere. It's a brand in itself, I would say. But yes, as Rupa said, these other qualifications like certified internal audit or certified information systems audit, these are add-ons which you can always add. CIA from IIA Institute of Internal Auditors and CISA from ISACA USA. These are also allied audit qualifications which can be used. Here, as CAs, we compete with ACCAs. So ACCA is a toned down version of the UK CA. Many locals and many people, even our neighboring countries and people, they do that. We compete against them. Having said that, on the manpower qualification side, manpower recognition side, so they do not recognize the CA qualification for the job process for my the labor law, it doesn't come as a recognized qualification. So my visa is issued based on my graduation certificate, but the people who are hiring me, the companies, the businesses, they understand the CA qualification well, and that's why they hire me as a chartered accountant. So I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, guys. Okay, can we pull up the last one slide, which I hope will be very useful to all the people in the audience, which is the way you can get more information. I know we have kind of overshot the time. I would love to continue chatting with these beautiful panelists. Very useful, very focused, very to the point. I certainly, as a moderator, thoroughly enjoyed this kind of conversation. I do hope that all the participants too found an echo in some of the questions which we asked, some of the discussions which we had. So I would thank each panelist for their time, their effort, their willingness to share, and congratulate each of you for all that you have already achieved, and wish you the best for all that you are going to achieve. And I think the best is yet to come. Ravindra Kore and Geeta ji are certainly people whom we need to applaud, acknowledge, and thank for making this happen. So thank you so much to all of you. Over to you. I would like to hand it back to you.
Thank you all. Thank you for participating in this Gnana Dasoha. Truly made a Dasoha from across the globe. So applause from the Bangalore branch. All the panelists, and yes, moderator is always A little bit when we are working with Rupa Venkatesh Madam, now I am only seeing 20% of her sound. The 80% Dhoni is still not able to hear from her. Because he went to Mysore, maybe she become cool more. Thank you. Thank you, madam. All the panelists, Aswini and Riya, Rupa
Thank you.
Lakshmi and Sangeeta Nahar. Thank you. Over to MC.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So let me also talk about, yes, Rupa ma'am, wonderful questions you have asked to enrich all of us in the area of opportunities. And as Dhwani, I think we all were resonating, and you all as panelists were resonating the same sound which said opportunities, opportunities, and opportunities. Whether it is in skill sports, as Lakshmi ma'am said, that it could be in sports also, it could be in construction, as Sangeeta ma'am said. So we have ample opportunities which are knocking our doors. It is there. I like that key question, Rupa ma'am, which was also not only in other countries but also outsourcing, staying in our home country and still doing it, is there is an opportunity there also. So that's really amazing, which also says that as Dhwani we all can actually resonate all that, and we have great things. Thanking everyone for speaking so well. Let me start with CA Sangeeta, where I like this point which you said, culture is so very important in building the career. And if we know the culture of that country, as CA Ria said, we fit in a lot more effectively if we can gel with the culture of that particular country. I also endorsed the point which CA Ashwini said, the same thing, that it is very easy for us to look at a work culture, and it is really great. As CA Ria said, people management, no matter wherever we go, one of the challenges people management, and if that is there, we could really deal with it effectively. So it was really nice. Lakshmi ma'am, I hear you in terms of even sports, which is my favorite. There is an opportunity there also. So we are there. I like this point also where C.A. Ashwini, you talked about the facts in terms of where do different countries stand in terms of welcoming different areas. As Dhwani, we all also resonated one more aspect, which is doesn't matter wherever we go. India CA is absolutely good enough to gel and adjust in any of the areas, and I'm sure this is great opportunity for all of us to really look into it. I like that point, CA Ashwini, where you talked about collaboration is another very important area for us to get into, how we can approach and how we can continue with everyone there, and we can look at it. Sierra, so happy to see the versatility in educating and sharing is also there when you are in that particular country. It is there. So as we said, yeah, oil and gas. Apart from oil and gas, we could see. So we also in India, I feel okay. Whenever it comes to Middle East, it's oil and gas which is primary. But then, as CA Sangeeta said, no, construction is amazing. Yeah, Burj Khalifa and all those areas which I see, I can actually see. Yeah, we can really look at and explore many more opportunities in these areas. So as Dhwani, we all were resonating the same point, which is very important. So thanking every member here, the panelists who have really enlightened all of us in the ample opportunities which are there for us. Yeah, there is one more question, Rupa ma'am. Can I read it for you all? There was one more question from the participants. Rupa Venkatesh ma'am, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you refer any website where we can know more about the opportunities and skills expected to avail the opportunities available?
Yeah, if you would look at the last slide, each of those countries have given their website, and all their websites carry information which is relevant to that particular country. So a little reading would certainly help all the people in the audience to understand what specific skills may be required, even specific to that country. So that would help. Maybe as a part of the organizing committee, you can circulate that or put it up on the YouTube section.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing this information. And another question which was also coming in is the difference between India and Middle East in professional working environment, where you all have already touched upon, but that was another final question which was also appearing in the Q&A from the from the participants. Difference between India and Middle East professional working environment. Sure, Syria. Sure, Syria.
So I can speak for Bahrain at least. Like Bahrain is a very small place. So comparing Bahrain and India, number one advantage where as living residents in Bahrain, we get is the distance. This we travel very like 15 to 20 minutes any place, excluding traffic, and maximum 30 minutes we reach where we have to. Compared to where I was staying in Mumbai, just that my residence to the station would take that long. So covering the distance, saving a lot of time during travel gives definitely a lot of time for you, for your social activities, for your family responsibilities, and any other interests that you have. Like for me, example, I think Bahrain is perfect in that way. And what I would also like to say, I think C.A. Ashwini had already touched upon it. It's like Oman, even Bahrain is a little relaxed. But when you go to India, they're a little more aggressive because, of course, the market size is so big. There are so many opportunities to tap. Compared to that, when you come to a smaller place like Bahrain, you can be a little relaxed, and that definitely reflects, in more spending time for yourself and for your activities that you like. So I would definitely say for Bahrain, it's more relaxed. I'm not talking about the peak audit seasons or the peak times that you have.
I think it's very easy to adapt, whoever wants to shift, and the adjustments are very easy to handle. So you wouldn't find much of apart from the on the professional side, it's less complicated. You don't have so many tax laws and all of that. So it's much smoother experience. You just focus on the revealing whatever is there. And on the other cultural side and all, it will be a matter of time, very easy to adapt.
Same for Qatar also, I guess, because anybody who is coming in from India to Qatar, it's very easy to adapt. They will be more relaxed because, in the sense that it's more aggressive work environment in India with the Indian setup. However, in Qatar, yes, you do have work, but then you have a specific time. So you can have a wonderful work-life balance, I would rather put it. Like personal and professional life can be easily balanced out in Qatar.
Sure. Thank you very much, all the dear panelists. It was amazing hearing all of you and great advices and suggestions which you all have given. Kudos to all of you for sharing great information with all of us. So with this, Rupa Venkatesh ma'am, can I take it forward and can we move on to the next part of the agenda?
Yeah, thank you everyone, and please excuse
Thank you everyone for having us.
Thank you very much.
I've had to leave my meeting. I'm extremely sorry I'm on. Thank you everybody, and over to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much, C.A. Rupa. It was amazing having you in the session. Let me take it forward to a lot more enjoyment and fun, which is going to be fun with your brain. And fun with your brain is a quiz.
Bhavna appreciation certificate.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So before we get into that, we also have a certification for all the panelists. Can I request Bangalore team to share that on the screen? Clapping for Rupa ma'am, C.A. Rupa Venkatesh. That is for you. C.A. Ashwini Savrikar, this is for you. C.A. Sangeeta, this is for you. C.A. Ria Bansali, this is for you. CA Lakshmi Shetty, this is for you. Right. So thank you so much, all of you. And with this thought from, because we have started